Tonight, we stand witness to an event that will echo through Westminster, shaking the very foundations of British politics like a thunderous clap of sound. Former US President Donald J. Trump has just launched a blistering political rebuke against the current leadership of the United Kingdom, a direct attack on Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And this time, it is not just the political class that will take notice, the entire world is watching in disbelief. This is not, as some might wish to paint it, a mere diplomatic spat or a mild rebuke masked in the usual political language of courtesy. No, what we are seeing is a stunning moment of humiliation for Britain, an unprecedented intervention on the global stage by one of its closest allies. This is a condemnation, a deliberate act of exposure, and it comes from the most unlikely of sources, the former President of the United States. Trump has formally dispatched a team from the US State Department to the UK, a move that comes amidst escalating concerns over the state of free speech in the very nation that once stood as its proudest advocate. The United Kingdom, long regarded as the birthplace of liberty, the home of the Magna Carta, the crucible of democratic freedoms, is now under investigation by Washington for its increasingly authoritarian tendencies. Let that sink in for a moment. The United States, the nation that has historically supported Britain through thick and thin, is now raising alarms over the erosion of basic human rights in the heart of Europe. This is not an indictment issued by Nigel Farage or the populist right-wing media in the UK. No, this is a rebuke delivered directly by Donald Trump, a figure whose political influence stretches far beyond the borders of the United States. The implications of this are profound. We are witnessing a moment of unparalleled national disgrace. Trump's decision to dispatch 5 top-ranking officials from the US government to Britain on a fact-finding mission is not just an ordinary diplomatic move. It is a direct challenge to the current administration and its handling of civil liberties. Their mandate? To investigate the mounting crackdown on peaceful protesters, specifically, those who are being arrested for nothing more than silently praying or holding private, personal beliefs that do not align with the ever-changing standards of political correctness demanded by the current government. This, sadly, has become the new reality in Britain under Labour's leadership, a country where people are not only being punished for their actions but for their thoughts as well. The fundamental rights that were once taken for granted, the right to speak freely, to hold personal opinions without fear of retribution, are now being systematically undermined. What we are witnessing is the gradual criminalization of thought itself. What Britain has become under Starmer's leadership is a place where the very essence of free speech is under threat, and where dissent is not merely discouraged but punished. This is what Trump is calling out, and this is what is at stake in this bitter political confrontation. And Trump is not alone in his condemnation. His actions speak louder than words. While Keir Starmer was busy grinning for the cameras in the White House, engaging in the performative theatrics of international diplomacy, Trump took action. He did not merely issue a statement or make a vague plea for reform. No, he sent in his team, bypassing the British government entirely. The message is clear: Starmer and his administration have failed in their most basic duty, the protection of fundamental rights. The right to free speech is no longer guaranteed in the UK, and this failure has been acknowledged, not just by political pundits, but by one of Britain's most important allies. Let us examine, then, what this investigation uncovered. Among the many interviews conducted by the US delegation were the cases of 5 pro-life activists who had been arrested in the UK. But these were not activists accused of violence, not individuals involved in riots or even hate speech. No, these were peaceful people who stood silently outside abortion clinics in protest. Their crime? Silence. They were arrested for being silent, for engaging in a form of protest that did not disturb the peace, nor incite hatred. This is the kind of Britain that has emerged under Starmer's leadership, a nation where you can march through the streets of London chanting genocidal slogans in the name of political ideology, but if you whisper a prayer outside a clinic, you will be handcuffed and thrown into a prison cell. This, the world is now seeing, is what Britain has become: a place where dissent is not tolerated, and where freedom of thought is being systematically erased. And still, this is only the surface of a far more insidious problem. Consider the case of Lucy Connolly, a mother from Britain who was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for nothing more than posting a tweet. A tweet. In a society that once prided itself on its commitment to free speech, how is it possible that a woman can be locked away simply for expressing an opinion on social media? Meanwhile, violent criminals, individuals who pose a real threat to public safety, are being handed lenient sentences or released without so much as a second thought. This is the chilling reality under Labour's so-called soft crime policies. And what did Keir Starmer have to say when pressed about this? I'm not across the details. Not across the details? You are the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and a British citizen has been jailed for a tweet. This is a failure of leadership of the highest order, a sign of incompetence at best, and cowardice at worst. A woman has been imprisoned for expressing an opinion, and Starmer cannot even be bothered to familiarize himself with the case. This is not ignorance, it is an outright abdication of responsibility. And this cowardice has now been exposed to the entire world. Charlie Kirk, an American conservative commentator, recently visited the UK and was stunned by what he saw. His words were telling: Britain feels like America before Trump came down the escalator. What he meant was this: Britain is now in decline. The nation has lost its voice. The far-left political forces that have risen in power are silencing anyone who dares to challenge them, whether through police raids, corporate cancel culture, or outright intimidation. And it is not just Lucy Connolly who is being persecuted. There are many more cases. There is Julian Folks, a war veteran, arrested in his own home for simply replying to a pro-Palestinian tweet. There is Caris Vaughan, a young female footballer banned from her sport for daring to ask a biological man why he was playing in the Women's League. There is Matthew Tummer, a gay volunteer expelled from a community program for questioning why a train had been painted in rainbow colors. There is Ben Woods, a loyal employee of Waitrose for 25 years, sacked for an anonymous post that harmed nobody, except perhaps the fragile sensibilities of the HR department. One by one, these cases pile up, and still, there is no word of regret from Keir Starmer, no sign of reform, no indication that the government intends to change course. Instead, there is only silence, deflection, and denial. But Donald Trump has not remained silent. He acted. His State Department officials met with the victims of this crackdown. They documented the cases, gathered evidence, and saw firsthand the state of free speech in Britain today. And now, they are reporting back to the White House. Let that truly sink in: America is now monitoring Britain for human rights violations. The United Kingdom, once a beacon of liberty and free expression, is now under the scrutiny of the United States for its failure to protect these fundamental rights. Think about that. Think about how far we have fallen. And the man overseeing it all, watching from across the Atlantic, is the very same individual who championed the cause of free speech in America, Donald Trump. While Keir Starmer spends his time pandering to extremist factions, Trump is stepping in to defend the rights of British citizens from their own government. The irony is undeniable: it was the United Kingdom that once gifted the world with the Magna Carta, the very foundation upon which the US Constitution was built. Now, in a remarkable turn of events, it is America that is reminding Britain of the principles it once stood for. The roles have been irreversibly reversed. This is a humiliation of the highest order, and it is all at the hands of Keir Starmer's Labour Party. The British public are not blind to what is happening. They see the glaring double standards, the oppressive rule of the woke mob. They witness the police turning a blind eye to knife crime, yet willing to raid homes over innocuous Facebook posts. And now, they are watching as a foreign president does more to safeguard their freedoms than their own elected leader. It is a disgrace. It is an embarrassment, and it is utterly infuriating. Trump's message to Starmer was crystal clear: you are not protecting your citizens, so I will. And what is Labour's response to this stark intervention? Snarky comments, defensiveness, and accusations of foreign interference. But here's the truth that they dare not admit: they are not angry because Trump overstepped. No, they are furious because he told the truth. Keir Starmer has been weighed on the scales, measured, and found wanting. Not by Nigel Farage, not by the rhetoric of GB News, but by the former President of the United States. And now, the entire world is bearing witness to it. This is no longer a matter of left versus right, this is a question of liberty versus tyranny. It's about whether free citizens can still express themselves in the land that once invented the very concept of freedom. Tonight, Trump's intervention has shattered the illusion that the UK under Starmer is still the home of free speech. The mask has slipped, and the world now sees that Britain, under the leadership of Starmer, has become a place where censorship, fear, and mob rule have replaced the ideals of liberty. But make no mistake, the tide is turning. And thanks to Trump, the world is watching. Starmer wanted to position himself as a global statesman. Instead, he has been exposed as nothing more than a global censor. And Donald Trump, without even stepping foot on British soil, has managed to humiliate the Prime Minister in front of the entire world. The question now is a simple one: how much longer will the British people remain silent? One thing is clear: Donald Trump is not staying silent, and neither should the people of Britain. In other news, Keir Starmer's grip on power within the Labour Party is rapidly slipping. The walls of Labour's headquarters are trembling, not from attacks by the Conservative Party, but from an all-out civil war within Starmer's own ranks. Nearly 50 Labour MPs are on the verge of open rebellion, and the cause of this revolt is one of the most heartless policies of his premiership: a drastic reduction in welfare and disability benefits. You heard that correctly, cuts to disability benefits, proposed by a so-called progressive Labour government. Insiders within the party report that Starmer was left reeling, visibly pale, after news broke that dozens of Labour backbenchers were preparing to defy the party line. The panic button has been hit at Labour HQ, with government whips scrambling to do damage control. They are quietly allowing MPs to abstain from voting, attempting to avert what one source described as an impending mutiny within the party. But let's not sugarcoat it, this is nothing short of a panicked cover-up. This isn't just another policy disagreement, this is a revolt of conscience, and it is tearing Labour apart from the inside. The fury among these MPs is palpable. From the backbenches to the grassroots, the anger is building. Nearly 50 Labour MPs have finally had enough of being forced to toe the line of Starmer's increasingly right-wing agenda. So, what exactly has sparked this rebellion? A plan to tighten access to disability benefits. Yes, during an ongoing cost of living crisis, when bankers are receiving tax breaks and corporate profits continue to soar, the most vulnerable people in Britain are being left to fend for themselves. Critics have denounced these cuts as immoral, disgraceful, and deeply un-British. Charities and disability rights groups have lined up to condemn the decision, warning that thousands could be pushed into poverty, homelessness, or even suicide. One campaigner told Sky News, "This is not reform. This is cruelty dressed up in a suit." Even Starmer's most loyal MPs are now questioning his leadership. One anonymous shadow minister confided to ITV, "He's lost the room." The entire cabinet is seething, but too afraid to say it out loud. That silence, however, may not last for much longer. As the fury within the Labour Party grows, so too does the fear within Labour HQ. The failure to address this issue has sparked more rebellion, and this crisis is now threatening to boil over. And as if the welfare rebellion weren't enough to shake Starmer's fragile hold on power, he is also facing increasing pressure from within his party over his deafening silence on Gaza. Let that sink in. While Donald Trump, yes, Trump, pushes for mass Palestinian evictions and the world watches in horror, Starmer can't even bring himself to issue a tweet in response. 38 Labour MPs, including long-serving veterans and rising stars within the party, are now demanding answers, demanding leadership, and demanding decency. One MP told The Independent, "We didn't sign up to be Trump's doormats." And yet, that is exactly what Starmer has made Labour into, a party that willfully sits by while Trump-backed atrocities unfold before the eyes of the world. Where is the outrage, Keir? Where is the moral backbone? Starmer's refusal to condemn Trump's policies in Gaza has set a fuse under his party, and the tension is now unbearable. But the political crisis doesn't stop there. Labour's failure to act on the grooming gang scandal is the final straw for many. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, the party has taken the unthinkable step of blocking a national inquiry into grooming gangs. Yes, you heard that correctly. The same party that claims to champion justice has now been accused of cowardice for blocking an investigation into one of the most horrific and widespread crimes in modern British history. Why? Why would a major political party deliberately block an inquiry into such a serious matter? Critics are calling it a cover-up, plain and simple. Advocacy groups, victims' families, and opposition parties have all condemned Labour for betraying survivors and prioritising politics over the truth. According to reports from The Telegraph, public trust in Labour has plummeted, particularly in key northern constituencies, following this decision. One victim's family told the BBC, "We've waited for years to be heard. Now, Labour has slammed the door in our faces." Is this what Starmer calls leadership? Labour's civil war has begun in earnest, and it's clear that the party's fragile unity is on the brink of collapse. The cracks are showing, and they are widening with every passing day.